It was a busy morning at the city airport. People rushed everywhere, phones in hand, coffee cups shaking, announcements echoing across the hall. Among them stood Emma, a young woman with a small suitcase and tired eyes. She looked around nervously, holding her flight ticket tightly. Today was a big day for her. She was flying to a new city to start her dream job. For Emma, this flight meant a new beginning, a chance to build her life again after years of struggle. She had saved for months, sold her old phone, and worked extra shifts at the cafe just to buy this ticket. Everything depended on this one journey. She checked the clock on her phone, 7:45 a.m. Her flight would board in 15 minutes. Emma took a deep breath. Just a few more hours, she whispered to herself, and everything will change. As she sat down near gate 32, she noticed something unusual. A man nearby was standing with a baby in his arms. The little one was crying loudly, and the father looked completely exhausted. His shirt had milk stains, his eyes were red, and he was trying to rock the baby while holding a stroller and a bag at the same time. People around them sighed and rolled their eyes. Some even moved away. No one offered help. Emma watched quietly for a while. The baby's cries grew louder. The man looked desperate, one hand holding the baby, the other searching for something in his bag. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Suddenly, an announcement echoed. "Ladies and gentlemen, Flight 237 to New York is overbooked. We are looking for one volunteer to give up their seat in exchange for a later flight and travel voucher."
Ouch.
Everyone looked down at their phones or pretended not to hear. Emma looked at the man again. The baby was still crying. The father was gently whispering, "It's okay, sweetie. We'll get on the plane soon." Emma bit her lip. She looked at her ticket again. This was her only flight. If she missed it, she would be late for her first day of work. But her heart wouldn't let her ignore the scene in front of her. She stood up slowly and walked to the counter. "Excuse me," she said softly to the flight attendant. "I'll give up my seat." The attendant looked surprised. "Are you sure, miss? The next flight is 5 hours later." Emma smiled faintly. "It's okay. He needs it more than I do." The attendant nodded and made the change. A few minutes later, the father came running toward Emma. "Was it you?" he asked, breathless. "Did you give up your seat for us?" Emma nodded shyly. "Yes, I saw you struggling. It's fine, really." The man looked speechless. His voice cracked slightly as he said, "I don't even know how to thank you." "You don't know what this means to me?" Emma smiled. "You can thank me by taking care of that little one." He laughed softly and said, "I promise. I won't forget this." Then, before she could say anything, he was gone, boarding the plane with his baby in his arms. Emma stood near the window and watched the plane take off. For some reason, her heart felt heavy, yet peaceful. She didn't know why she had done it. Maybe it was kindness. Maybe fate. All she knew was that something about that moment felt important. But soon reality returned. The next flight wasn't for 5 more hours. She sighed, sat back in the waiting area, and opened her old notebook. Inside, she had written, "Be kind. The world always brings it back somehow." Little did she know those words were about to come true in a way she could never imagine. Because the man she had just helped wasn't just any father. He was someone who would soon change her life forever. The airport noise faded as the scene ended, leaving behind the echo of her choice, and the beginning of a story that would rewrite her destiny. The airport was quiet now. Emma sat alone near a window, watching planes take off one after another. Her own flight wouldn't leave for 5 more hours. She leaned back and closed her eyes, trying to calm her thoughts. Her act of kindness had felt right, but now reality started to hit. She had a new job starting the next morning. It was her dream opportunity, something she had waited for her whole life. And now, because she gave up her ticket, she might arrive late. Emma took out her phone and checked the time again. "Maybe I can still make it," she whispered. But deep inside, she wasn't sure. Finally, the hours passed, and she boarded the next flight. The seat felt cold, and her stomach was empty. She had spent all her money on this trip, with no extra cash left for food. She held her small bag close and whispered a small prayer. "Please, Just let everything go well. When she landed, it was already dark. The city lights shone bright against the night sky. It was beautiful, tall buildings, glowing signs, busy streets. But Emma felt lost among the crowd. She had never been to such a big city before. She found a small bus and rode quietly to the address of her new apartment. It was tiny, just one room, with peeling paint and a flickering light. But for Emma, it was still a dream come true. She smiled weakly, dropped her suitcase, and fell asleep without even taking off her shoes. The next morning came too soon. Her alarm buzzed at 6:30 a.m. Emma jumped out of bed, realizing she had overslept. Her interview and orientation started at 8 o'clock. She got ready in a rush, her hair slightly messy, her shirt wrinkled, but her heart hopeful. She ran to the bus stop, but the bus had just left. So she took another one, and by the time she reached the office, she was 20 minutes late. The building looked grand, made of glass and silver steel. A huge sign read, "Bright Future Technologies." Emma stared at it for a moment, her heart pounding. This was her new world. Inside, everything looked modern and perfect. People walked fast, typing on tablets, talking in soft voices. Emma went to the reception desk and gave her name. The lady frowned slightly. "You're late, Miss Emma Parker," she said. "The HR meeting already started." Emma apologized softly. "I missed my flight because The lady raised her hand. "It's fine. Just head to the 10th floor. And please, try not to be late again." Emma nodded, feeling embarrassed. Inside the elevator, she looked at her reflection in the glass. "You can do this," she told herself. When she entered the HR room, everyone turned to look at her. A few people whispered. Emma quietly took a seat in the back. The HR manager smiled politely and continued, "As new employees, you'll be part of a company that values kindness, honesty, and innovation." Those words struck Emma. Kindness. She smiled a little. After the session, she tried to talk to some coworkers. They were friendly, but curious. One of them, a girl named Lily, leaned close and whispered, "You're lucky to be here. Our CEO is super rich and powerful, but nobody ever sees him in person." Emma blinked. "Really?" Lily nodded. "He travels all the time. I've been here a year and only saw him once from far away." Emma laughed nervously. "Sounds like a mystery." "Totally," Lily replied. "But they say he's strict. People call him the ghost boss." Later that evening, Emma sat at her desk, finishing forms. Her thoughts drifted to the man at the airport, the tired father with the baby. She wondered if he reached home safely. Just then, her manager came over and said, "Emma, the CEO will meet all new hires tomorrow morning. Make sure you're on time." Emma froze. "The CEO? Tomorrow?" "Yes," the manager smiled. "He's back from a business trip. You'll like him, he values good people." Emma nodded, pretending to smile. But her heart began to race. She didn't know why, but something inside her whispered that tomorrow would not be an ordinary day. Outside, the city lights flickered, and somewhere across town, a man in a tall office looked at a photo on his desk, him holding a baby at an airport. He smiled and whispered, "See you soon, Miss Parker." The morning air was cool, and Emma could hardly eat breakfast. Her mind kept repeating one sentence. "The CEO will meet all new hires today." She ironed her shirt twice, tied her hair neatly, and practiced a nervous smile in the mirror. "Relax, Emma," she whispered. "It's just a meeting." But her hands were shaking. Inside the glass building, everything felt brighter than yesterday. The smell of fresh coffee and soft clicking of keyboards filled the lobby. She greeted the receptionist, who smiled and said, "Good luck. The CEO's back today. Everyone's acting extra serious." "Oh la la." Emma laughed softly, though her stomach tightened. She took the elevator to the 10th floor and joined the other new hires waiting outside the conference room. People whispered quietly. "Do you think he's scary?" One asked. "I heard he never smiles," another said. Someone added, "He's young, but he built this whole company from nothing." Emma stayed silent, pretending to read the welcome file. Her heart thumped faster. She thought about the tired man from the airport, the one with kind eyes and a baby in his arms. Why am I thinking about him again? She wondered. The clock hit 10. The glass door opened, and a tall man in a gray suit walked in. His assistant followed, carrying a laptop. The room went completely still. The CEO stood at the front, his face calm and serious. "Good morning, everyone," he said in a deep voice. "I'm Daniel Reed, founder of Bright Future Technologies." Emma's pen slipped from her hand. The sound of it hitting the table made her heart jump. She froze. That voice. It was the same one she'd heard at the airport. Her mind spun in slow motion. The tired father, the crying baby, the promise, "I won't forget this." Could it really be him? Daniel Reed looked around the room, his gaze moving from person to person. When his eyes reached Emma, he paused for a second. Just a small pause, but enough to make her chest tighten. He didn't say anything. Instead, he gave a polite smile and continued speaking about company goals, kindness, and teamwork. Emma couldn't focus. Every word blurred in her ears. What are the chances? She thought. What if he recognizes me? Should I say something? No. Maybe he doesn't remember. After the meeting, everyone stood up to leave. Emma tried to slip out quietly, but a voice stopped her. "Miss Parker, could you stay for a moment?" She turned slowly. Daniel Reed was looking straight at her. His expression was unreadable. When the room emptied, he stepped closer. "We've met before, haven't we?" he said gently. Emma's throat went dry. I don't think so, sir," she stammered. He tilted his head, half smiling. "At an airport? You gave up your ticket for a man with a baby." Emma's face turned red. "That was you?" he nodded. "Yes, and you saved me from missing a flight that changed everything." She blinked, confused. "Changed everything?" Daniel smiled faintly. "That flight was for an important meeting in New York. Because of it, I closed a deal that helped hundreds of employees keep their jobs. And it only happened because you gave up your seat." Emma's eyes widened. "I didn't know. I just wanted to help." "I know," he said softly. "That's what makes it special." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then he laughed lightly. "You were late yesterday, weren't you?" Emma nodded, embarrassed. "Yes, because I took the next flight," he chuckled. "I guess it's my fault then." Her shoulders relaxed for the first time. The tension slowly turned into a warm feeling relief, mixed with disbelief. She couldn't believe this was happening. Daniel turned serious again. "You know, Miss Parker, most people talk about kindness. Few actually do it when it costs them something." He looked toward the window. "You gave away your seat, your time, maybe your chance, and yet you smiled." Emma didn't know what to say. She just whispered, "Anyone would have done that." He shook his head. "Not anyone." He handed her a small white card. "Come to my office tomorrow morning. I want to discuss something, an opportunity." Emma took the card with trembling fingers. "Yes, sir." As she walked out, her coworkers whispered, "What did the CEO want?" Emma only smiled. "I'm not sure yet." But deep inside, she felt her life was about to change again. Across the hallway, Daniel watched her leave, a thoughtful look in his eyes. He whispered to himself, kindness always finds its way back. The elevator doors closed behind her, ending the moment, but the real story had just begun. Asterisk.
Asterisk.
The next morning came with soft sunlight spilling through the office windows. Emma arrived early, too early. She wanted to be ready for whatever opportunity Mr. Reed had mentioned. Her heart still couldn't believe that the man she helped at the airport was actually Daniel Reed, the millionaire CEO everyone admired. She sat quietly in the lobby, her mind spinning. Why did he ask me to come? Maybe it was just to say thank you again. Or maybe... No, she didn't want to expect too much. At exactly 9 a.m., the assistant called, "Miss Parker, Mr. Reed will see you now." Emma stood, wiped her hands nervously on her skirt, and walked into the office. The room was large, but peaceful. Wide glass windows, soft lighting, and books stacked neatly on shelves. Daniel sat behind his desk, looking at some papers. When he saw her, he smiled warmly. "Good morning, Emma," he said. "Please, have a seat." She sat down carefully. "Good morning, sir." He leaned back in his chair. I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday, about how small actions can make a big difference. Emma nodded politely, not sure what to say. He continued. Do you know how rare it is to meet someone who acts with kindness when no one's watching? Emma smiled shyly. I just did what felt right. Daniel looked at her thoughtfully. That's exactly why it's special. Most people help when there's a reward. You helped when there wasn't one. Before Emma could respond, there was a knock at the door. The HR manager peeked in. Sir, everyone is ready for the staff meeting. Daniel nodded. Good, Miss Parker. Come with me. Me? To the meeting? Yes, he said. You'll understand why soon. They walked together into the big conference room. Dozens of employees were already seated. The moment the CEO entered, everyone stood up. Daniel gestured for them to sit. Emma followed him quietly to the front of the room, her heart beating fast. Daniel started the meeting with his usual calm tone. Good morning, everyone. Before we discuss today's agenda, I'd like to share a personal story. The room fell silent. People leaned forward, curious. Daniel continued. A few weeks ago, I was traveling with my baby daughter. I was tired, exhausted, and the flight was overbooked. No one wanted to give up their seat, except for one young woman. Emma froze in her chair. She knew where this was going. Her cheeks turned warm. She didn't know who I was, Daniel said softly. She didn't ask for money or recognition. She simply saw a father in need and helped. He paused, then added, Because of that, I made it to a meeting that saved this company's biggest contract. The employees began whispering. Someone gasped quietly. Daniel smiled and turned toward Emma. That woman is sitting among us right now. Her name is Emma Parker. All eyes turned to her. Emma wanted to disappear. Her hands trembled. Sir, she began. But Daniel raised his hand gently. You don't need to say anything, he said kindly. Your actions already spoke louder than words. There was a long pause, then applause filled the room. People smiled, some even stood up. Emma's eyes shimmered with emotion. She couldn't believe what was happening, Daniel continued. In a world where everyone rushes for success, she reminded me of something important, humanity. He turned back to the team. And that's the kind of spirit I want at Bright Future. Not just skill or intelligence, but heart. After the meeting ended, people came to Emma's desk to congratulate her. Some said, You're amazing. Others smiled and whispered, You really did that? Emma laughed shyly, still blushing. It was nothing, really. But inside, she felt proud, not because of the applause, but because her simple act had touched so many people. Later that day, Daniel walked by her desk. He stopped for a moment and said quietly, You handled that well. Emma smiled. Thank you, sir. I didn't expect any of this. He nodded. Good, because surprises are part of life, especially for good people. As he walked away, Emma looked out the window. The city lights sparkled in the distance, and for the first time in years, she felt she truly belonged somewhere. She didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning. The real change was still to come. The next few days felt unreal for Emma. People in the office greeted her with smiles now. Some whispered, some admired, and others even asked for advice, as if she had done something heroic. But Emma stayed humble. She still took her lunch alone near the window, still worked quietly at her small desk. Every time she saw Mr. Reed passing by, she smiled politely, and he nodded in return. But something about his eyes told her that he was still thinking about that airport moment, not out of guilt, but something deeper. One Friday morning, while Emma was organizing files, she received a message from his assistant. Mr. Reed would like to see you in his office. Her heart skipped a beat. She checked her reflection in the monitor, smoothed her hair, and walked toward the elevator. Inside his office, Daniel looked relaxed, standing near the window with a cup of coffee. Ah, Emma, he said, turning to face her. Good morning. Come in. Good morning, sir, she replied softly, trying not to sound nervous. He smiled. I hope you've recovered from all that attention after the meeting. Emma laughed lightly. It was a bit overwhelming, but everyone's been very kind. Daniel nodded. That's good. You deserve it. Right. He paused, then gestured toward a chair. Please, sit. I want to talk to you about something important. Emma sat down, her hands resting on her knees. I've been watching your work, Daniel began. You're dedicated, focused, and humble. But there's something more valuable you bring. Empathy. Emma blinked, surprised. Empathy. Yes, he said simply. You understand people. You see beyond numbers and reports. That's rare. She looked down shyly. Thank you, sir. Daniel placed his cup on the table and walked closer. I'm starting a new project. A program that will help working parents, especially single ones, balance their careers and family life. I want you to help me lead it. Emma's mouth fell open. Me, sir. I'm just new here. I don't have experience, he interrupted gently. You have something experience can't teach. Compassion. And that's exactly what this project needs. Eyes glistened. I don't know what to say. Smiled softly. Say yes. For a moment, she just sat there, overwhelmed. The girl who once couldn't afford a flight ticket was now being asked to work side by side with the CEO of one of the biggest companies in the city. Finally, she nodded. Yes, I'll do my best. Daniel extended his hand. Welcome to the project, Emma? As she shook his hand, she could feel something change inside her, a quiet strength. A new kind of hope. Over the next few weeks, Emma worked closely with Daniel and his team. She helped design flexible schedules, arranged daycare partnerships, and wrote heartfelt messages for the company's internal campaigns. People started calling her the heart of the project.
Ow.
She didn't chase recognition. She simply wanted to make things easier for others, like she once had for that tired father at the airport. One evening, through a long meeting, Daniel looked at her across the conference table. You know, he said, when I first met you, I thought you were just a kind stranger. But now I see that you're more than that. You remind me of why I started this company. Emma smiled, her eyes soft. And you remind me that kindness really does come back. He nodded thoughtfully. It always does. Sometimes when we least expect it. There was a quiet pause. The city outside glowed with golden lights. Daniel broke the silence with a small smile. Do you regret giving up that ticket now? Emma shook her head slowly. Not for a second. They both laughed gently. Not as CEO and employee, but as to people whose lives had crossed for a reason neither could have planned. As Emma left his office that night, she felt lighter than ever. She looked up at the stars through the glass ceiling of the lobby and whispered, "Thank you, fate. You knew what you were doing." She didn't notice Daniel watching her from his window, smiling quietly, proud not just of his company, but of the kind soul who had unknowingly changed its future. And though neither of them said it aloud, both understood the same truth that night. Kindness is the best investment. It always returns. With interest? Months passed like a gentle breeze. Bright future technologies had changed, not just in numbers, but in spirit. The new Family First project, led by Emma Parker, had become one of the company's proudest. Achievements posters of smiling parents and children now hung across the office walls. Employees shared stories of how flexible hours had helped them spend more time with family. The company's name appeared in magazines and news headlines, a tech giant with a heart. Behind every smiling face stood Emma, the woman who once gave up her seat for a stranger. One sunny morning, Emma walked into the office carrying her usual cup of coffee. Her coworkers greeted her warmly. "Morning, Emma." She smiled. "Morning, everyone." Her desk was full of thank you notes from employees. One card caught her attention. It had a little handprint drawn in crayon. Inside it said, "Thank you for helping my dad come home early every night. From Lily, age 6. Emma's eyes softened. She took a deep breath. The journey had been hard, but moments like this made everything worth it. Just then, Daniel walked in, looking relaxed but sharp as always. "You're early as usual," he teased. Emma laughed. "You trained me well, sir," he smiled. "I wanted to tell you something before the team meeting." She looked curious. "What is it?" He paused for a moment, as if choosing the right words. "You've done something most people never manage. You've turned a single act of kindness into a movement. Emma looked down, embarrassed. It wasn't just me. He shook his head. No, but it started with you. The meeting began soon after. Reporters, employees, and even some partners joined virtually. Daniel stepped up to speak, his voice calm and proud. 6 months ago, he began, this company was strong but tired. We had goals, profits, and plans, but we had forgotten the heart behind it all. Then someone reminded us, turned toward Emma with a soft smile. One small act, giving up a ticket for a stranger, changed everything. People clapped, some nodding with admiration. Cameras flashed, recording the moment. Daniel continued, kindness doesn't need a big stage. It begins in the smallest places, an airport, a cafe, a hallway. And sometimes, that one act can change a company, a city, or even a life. Emma's heart filled with emotion. She remembered the tired father at the airport, the crying baby, and the decision she made without thinking. Who could have imagined that moment would lead her here? Later that evening, after everyone left, Emma stood alone by the large glass window overlooking the city. The lights below twinkled like stars. She whispered to herself. It all started with one choice. Just then, Daniel walked in, holding his coat. Still working? Emma smiled. Just thinking. He joined her by the window. About the past? She nodded. About how small things change everything. He looked out at the skyline. I used to believe success came from power and plans. But now, I think it comes from people, from moments like the one at that airport. Emma turned to him, smiling softly. Funny how life brings people together in the strangest ways, he chuckled. Fate has a strange sense of humor. They stood in silence for a while, watching the city. Then Daniel said, I have something for you. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a gold travel ticket, framed neatly with the words engraved. To Emma Parker, for reminding us that humanity still flies higher than success. Her eyes filled with tears. This is beautiful, he smiled. A reminder of where it all began. Emma looked at the ticket, then out at the horizon. Maybe it's time I take another flight. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Vacation? She grinned. Maybe, or maybe just to find the next person who needs a seat more than I do. They both laughed quietly. The sound echoed softly through the empty office. Warm, genuine, and peaceful narrator voiceover for YouTube ending. Sometimes, life tests us in small ways. We make choices without knowing how far they'll reach. But kindness. Kindness always travels farther than we can see. The camera pans up to the sky. An airplane glides through golden clouds. Text fades in on the screen. One small act of kindness can rewrite your story. Be kind. You never know who's watching, maybe your future. Soft music plays as the scene fades to black.